Hey guys, Charles from Halt's Boots here, and today I'm doing a full unboxing and on-foot review of the Predator Accuracy.1. Alright guys, so today we are actually going over the Predator Accuracy.1. It is the high cut, not the low cut. If you can see here, it doesn't have the little L, which would mean it was low cut. I went with a 9 this time. Last time I did an 8.5 if you saw the first Predator Accuracy.1 low video. And I just want to see if a 9 is a better fit in terms of like the heel area, because my biggest issue is not in the forefoot, not with the width, not with my toes, but in the heel. And I briefly tried on a pair of 9s a long time ago when I was figuring out what size to get. And I think I can get away with it. So that's going to be one of the main topics, is just if you're someone like me who floats between a size or two sizes, so sometimes I'm a 9, sometimes I'm an 8.5. This is one thing I wanted to test out to see if it would be helpful to go with a 9 and just go with a slightly bigger size, and then maybe either just like double sock or wear some grip socks or something like that. So that's something I wanted to try, and we're gonna go ahead and open them up here. Now, this is the Heat Spawn pack, which I think Adidas did a very good job on. This orange, it's just very, very bright and kind of out there, and I don't have an issue with that at all. I've never strayed away from bright boots, but I think they executed very well. The copas were really nice, the speed portals in that orange were really nice. So no real complaints from me there on the pack. And right off the way, there's not a big difference. And actually, I'm gonna go grab a low cut version so we can kind of compare the two in this part of the video real quick. All right, so I grabbed this pair here. I'm gonna move those out of the way for a minute. Now, please bear with me, it's a different color, a different size, but this pair I wore is actually still muddy and dried up with dirt, so I need to clean them. But if you see here now, obviously the profile's a little bit bigger. I don't know if there's a really good way we can kind of see that. So actually it's really hard to tell that this is the high cut and this is the low cut, at least from this perspective. I mean, if we check the heel here, you can see in the heel tabs, they're slightly different, but honestly, there's not much of a difference here. And I wasn't, you can tell in hand and kind of in person, but just looking through like the screen here on the camera, it looks very hard to tell the difference. And so I'm assuming there's gonna be not a lot of difference. I was told that the high cut does help a bit more with lockdown and kind of the heel issues I had with my heel slipping a lot, at least just slipping up and out, not necessarily like the bottom of my heel, but kind of like the back towards my like Achilles tendon and stuff was where I had my issues. So that was the retail price. Now we're gonna move on to just some stuff that I had with the low cut or some opinions and issues I guess I had with the low cut. And it's the same boot basically, but the rubber elements I did like, but I don't like that they're just in one spot and they don't even wrap all the way around the toe. They literally stop like where your, what would that be, your big toe I guess would be? Yeah, so right where your big toe would be, and then they don't continue. Like you have all these orange like dots here and they're black on this pair here, and it kind of feels like not really sandpapery. Maybe it's rubber, it's hard to really tell the texture at this like small of a scale, but it's not like these black rubber elements here, which I really liked. So that kind of stinks. And I think I'm gonna hit some free kicks just to kind of see how I like the element here, because I don't really think I did that. I only did some passing with the low cut version. And just kind of moving on, I think that, I don't really think that this high cut collar is gonna help with the lockdown at all and like the heel issue. So I'm hoping that it was a size thing. Again, I did really like that these boots were for wide feet, and as someone with very wide feet, it's nice to sometimes just be able to put a pair of boots on, and the issue that you have with the boots, maybe even if it's breaking in, is not the wide spot of like your midfoot is always where wide-footed players have those issues. And so it's kind of nice to just be able to slip these boots on, and the issue was not actually here. It was either in the heel or maybe the arch even. So, which I guess is still an issue, but it's just kind of nice not to have to deal with that aspect. And, trying these on briefly a couple months ago, or like a month and a half ago, I want to say that there was a bit more room in the toe, but it didn't feel like it was a full size bigger or half size bigger. So, even though there is a lot of width here, I will be going up half the size from when I wore the low cuts. I'm still kind of optimistic about it, and I think that there won't actually be that much room in the toe. Now, it was a while ago, so I can't really remember. I will be testing these. I want to say tonight I'm going to be going to a training session, so I might use these tonight for a little bit. And Again, with this boot, we do have the facet frame sole plate. You can kind of see, potentially, my camera's having a hard time focusing today, but it has a little detailing right there. It's very tiny where it says facet frame, and it's a 2-piece sole plate. These studs are fairly long. I do remember having some issues with the back studs here catching on turf when I wore the Predator Edge Plus 94 remake, and then also the regular Predator Accuracy low that I wore. They just are a bit long, and I think I'm gonna get a pair of the AG, at least a pair that has an AG sole plate, so I can kind of compare. The AG sole plate only adds like an extra stud or 2 on the outside and then like 3 smaller studs on the middle, but I believe the studs are also shorter. So if you can see, these are fairly long studs, nothing like super crazy, but just if you're playing on turf, you maybe don't want that much traction. So which is kind of nice tonight. I get to test these on a really nice grass field that I've been training at lately, so that's going to be really cool. And that's pretty much all I have to cover. I've done a review on this before, so you should definitely go check out the low review, but I'm really just going to get to the on-feet portion, and then that way I can kind of just pull more out of the boots that I'm looking for and kind of test out. Originally, these had a 7.1 out of 10, which isn't an awful rating, but it's not necessarily great either. So I'm really just gonna be looking for how's the lockdown, what's the difference between an 8.5 and a 9, and then maybe I'll even wear one of these times I'm training with them, the low cut in an 8.5 and then the high cut in the 9, and kind of just see the differences, see if that really does anything, and if I can tell, hey, the lockdown's better. You know, obviously I should be an 8.5, or obviously I should be a 9 in these. So, you know, just do a little bit of testing around there and kind of just see how well the high cut does. All right guys, so it's been a week and 2 days since I first unboxed these and did the first half of the video. I've really been enjoying these actually. I think I've worn them 5 or 6 times now, and every time was on grass. So I've really been enjoying this nice grass field I found, and you'll see a bunch of the stuff in the B-roll and whatnot, but I think that the Predator Accuracy is a good boot. I'll kind of go through everything and break it down for you like I do a normal review, hopefully answering any of your questions. And with that, we're gonna jump right into the sole plate. So for the facet frame sole plate, I wore this completely on grass this time, which was pretty nice. I might have done that with the low cut. It's been a few months, and I know I tested the Predator Edge Plus on turf only, so I didn't like this sole plate on turf. I felt the studs were a little too long. On grass, it was great. I feel like this is really suited for grass. You can definitely still wear it on turf. I just felt every once in a while there might be a snag here or there, but for the most part, it was fine. On grass, it's definitely the best, and I didn't find that it dug in too deep or didn't get enough traction. It was just right where it needed to be. So a nice, like, simple sole plate, not something I would say, hey, I want this on all my boots, but you know, something that does the job. And I'm just not a fan of split sole plates in general, so that's a personal preference of mine. I know some people don't think twice about it, but I really don't like that, and that's one of the drawbacks I have for this sole plate. But other than that, it did fine. And you know, it even has these little tungsten like spikes up at the top, or tungsten metal pieces that are supposed to help with, you know, whatever. I showed that in the first half of the video. I don't find that they did anything at all. And I honestly think that I'm going to at some point make like a YouTube short or some sort of video where I take these out and see if it does any difference, because it's just one of those weird tech things that they add. It's almost like ACC. Like, yeah, ACC supposedly does something, but does this really, like putting a little bit of weight in your toe, do anything? I don't know. And I think that I'm gonna start weighing boots at the beginning of videos. A lot of you have been asking me to do that. So we'll finally start to see, like, wow, is this Predator actually heavier than, you know, the X, and is that because of this or that, or, you know, so just kind of variations like that. But overall, yeah, the sole plate was just okay. Just, you know, it was decent, it did the job, but not anything I would write home about. Definitely, I need to try the AG at some point, because I think they're, again, shorter and better suited for turf, but overall, it did its job, and I'm happy with that. Moving on to the upper. So I think the only real gripe I have with the Predator Accuracy.1 is the same issue I had with the low cut version, and that's that these rubber elements here, they just don't wrap all the way around the boot. There is some sort of like textured, like little elements that I showed in the first half of this video, but I wish that this just subtle rubber went all the way around, and I think that would have really made it a really good boot. And you know, the rest of the upper's okay. I didn't mind the knit upper. It's just like a normal knit upper. I didn't find that the high cut made any real difference to me than the low cut. Now, I haven't worn the low cut in a month or two, but it didn't really stick out to me as anything crazy. I think the lockdown was definitely, the same, maybe a tiny bit better, but I'll kind of go into that in a bit. And you know, it was fairly comfortable. I think that this upper is not bad. I think that this, I can't remember the name of the actual synthetic over top of the upper, but it does the job. It's just a normal upper. It's nothing super crazy there. This is definitely overall a boot, I would say, if I were to like put a middle like football boot of just like something that's just average, I would definitely say that the Predator Edge is an average football boot. And I don't mean that with any malice or any sort of slight, because the Predator Edge, or the Predator Accuracy is a good boot. But yeah, I don't have much else to say about this upper other than, you know, I just wish the rest of it was coated in the rest of the upper was coated in rubber, because I do think that, you know, you get an okay, decent touch with this upper on top of that like extra rubber on the side. If they added it, I think would really make this a fantastic boot. Now we're gonna talk about lockdown. So overall, I think that the lockdown might have been slightly better than the low cut version, and maybe it's just because the heel tab comes a bit higher. If you watched my first review on the Predator Accuracy.1, I actually had problems with my heel feeling like it wasn't actually sitting in the boot properly, even when my foot was fully in and laced up. So I did not have that issue at all. It also could have been a sizing issue, which I'm gonna get into next. But the lockdown was decent, it was there. I didn't find any foot slippage. It definitely did the job well. I think that the laces, just kind of the way they're laid out, they kind of hug your foot pretty well. And you probably can get away with playing without laces in these. It's not something I did, but I've seen people do it. Maybe you'd want to go down half a size if you're not adding laces, because it's not built to be a laceless boot when, you know, it has lace holes. But again, it did okay. I think that the lockdown, you couldn't really improve it that much more, other than I guess if I really wanted to tighten my boots up. But for just tightening them normally, it just, you know, locked down like any other boot. It wasn't hard to take off, which I did appreciate. You know, some of these boots I've been trying on recently, which are coming in the next few reviews, you know, I feel like I get my foot in there and then it's just awful to take out, and it just is a chore. But with these, nope, just slip them right in, tie up the laces, they do fine. You need to take your feet out, undo the laces, pop your foot out. So again, lockdown, decent, nothing crazy, but does the job. Your foot's not going anywhere. Now it's time for the fit and comfortability. So last time I went with an 8.5 in the low cut version, because I was told you could go down half a size, and I felt it was a snug fit. But the biggest issue I had when I was wearing those lows in an 8.5 was the heel, where my foot just didn't feel like it was sitting in there. There was no blistering or anything happening, but it was just uncomfortable. And again, the boots were a little tight. However, I didn't have issues with the low version with having wide feet, and it's the same for these. If you have wide feet and you're struggling to find boots that aren't leather, that fit your feet properly, the Predator Accuracy is the way to go. This boot is going to be the best boot for wide feet. And that I've tried, that's not leather. Let me put a little asterisk there, that I've tried and it's not leather. And I really do appreciate that. I did go with the 9 with the high cut, and you know, it fit better. Honestly, overall, I would say it just fit better. I did have a little bit of room in the toe, which I'm kind of used to, because I'm someone who, if you didn't know, floats between like an 8.5 and 9, depending on what boots I'm wearing. And even within the same brand, I might wear different, like within a variation of half a size. So I decided that I wanted to try this boot with the, you know, half a size bigger. So if I usually would wear a 9 in Adidas, that's what I went with this time instead of the 8.5. And it did well. Again, there was just tiny little bits of room, but it didn't affect anything. It didn't really feel like my toe was sticking out because I have too much boot there. I was wearing boots too big, and it wasn't really noticeable at the end of the day. The only time I could maybe say it was noticeable when I would go to maybe dribble, and sometimes I would catch the ball weird with my toe. But again, I'm not really someone who's going to be taking people on like crazy 1v1 stuff, which again, you can still do with these boots. So I think that if you are someone who struggles between a size, whether it's an 11 and 11.5 or a, you know, 8.5 and 9, just go with that size that's a little bit, that would be the bigger size. So in my case, I went with a 9 instead of 8.5. So if you wear an 11 or 11.5, go with the 11.5, see how they feel, because I think that was the better option personally for me. And you know, if you don't have wide feet and you have narrow feet, these boots will still be okay for you, but they just, for wide feet, they just kind of allow for a little bit of extra room that you need when you have wide feet. So again, that was good. Comfortability wise, didn't have any issues with the heels. There's slight padding in the heel, and it'd be really hard to show you guys, but it's just subtle padding, and that's what I think most boots need to do these days. It was like the, I think the X18.1 had it really well, where it's just subtle padding. The Magista Obra had it really well in the back, bottom heel here under the collar. Superfly 4, that's the kind of padding that I like, and that's what's in the back of this heel here. So if you're looking for comfortability and you have wide feet, this is gonna be the way to go. If you are looking for comfortability and you don't have wide feet, you can definitely still fit in this boot fine, and there won't feel like there's room on either side, but you could potentially look at a different boot. That's honestly up to you. And again, if you wanna find a pair of these, I'm sure all over the place they're under retail. We are doing a drop within the next week and a half, 2 weeks of Predator Accuracies that is coming in on our website, and those will all be $120 or less depending on the sole plate. So definitely there'll be deals for these coming out, and there's still tons of deals out there on the internet as well. So again, if you're, for a boot that retails for $260, you can already find it for $200 or less. So it wouldn't be that bad of a boot to try out. So originally I went with the 7.1 out of 10 for the low version. And after wearing this boot, I think that's, I'm gonna go with, I wanna say 7.3, 7.4, because it's definitely better. And honestly, if I could, I would go back and lower the lows in the 8.5 sizing to a like 6 or 6.5, because they were so much more uncomfortable than these boots were. And I didn't mention break-in time, but break-in time was pretty easy on these. I think maybe an hour, 2 hours. So, about your average break-in time. And again, great for wide feet. I definitely just wish they made a leather version. I'm kind of kicking myself because I think when they did those Prada boots, they did them in leather. I think every Prada boot was in leather, but they were $500 or more. So, I just wish we had a leather version, because then these would be absolutely insane. And I think it would be a boot that I would wear a lot more. Not necessarily replace my 11 Pros with, but definitely something that you could throw in the rotation to substitute some sort of really nice leather boot. Unfortunately, I think with all the brands going away for leather, we're not gonna get that unless it's I think leather might become special edition or something, which kind of stinks. But what are you gonna do? So overall, this boot was, not super fantastic, not super awful, a little bit better than average, I would say. I would say at this point an average rating, when I base it on my 7 to 10 scale, is, somewhere near 7.5, which is, I don't know how I actually rate boots. I kind of just try to do it on the fly. So I need to revamp that system at some point, but it's an average boot. I think it's a good boot. I think it's something everyone needs to try. And if you haven't yet, definitely pick up a pair. And again, if you're struggling and have wide feet, definitely get a pair of these and you won't be disappointed. So that's all I have for you guys today. This was my entire on-foot review of the Predator Accuracy 0.1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please drop a comment and let me know your thoughts on this boot. Have you worn it yet? It's been out for a couple months now. Is it something that you think you should try after this? Did I get the review wrong? Let me know. I really like talking with you guys down there, and I'll let you guys go with that. So just please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next review.